Careers in science are initially associated with a high level of uncertainty. Employment contracts for junior researchers are exclusively fixed-term contracts. It's due to the nature of the position itself, as well as due to the funding that comes from grants that are usually for something that covers 3 to 5 years. High emphasis is also put on mobility and gaining some experience from other institutions, ideally abroad. And this career stage often overlaps with the period when people typically start their families. These all are reasons why scientific world faces something that might be called leaky pipeline, a departure of women from science. So how does CEITEC fight it? What are the challenges that women face that want to be scientists, and where help can be found? Let's hear more from Eliška Handlířová in her speech that is called "Be Selfish and Take Full Advantage of Equal Opportunities in Science."
Thank you very much. So hello everybody. I hope my microphone will be okay. So my name is Eliška. I work at CEITEC at Masaryk University, which is another partner of the CEITEC consortium, together with CEITEC at Brno University of Technology. I work as a head of director's office, and it has been already more than 10 years when I started devoting a part of my capacity to the agenda of gender equality and equal opportunities in science, but also support for diversity and also support for making our institute more international in terms of attracting international staff, international researchers from abroad. And since 2011, back then, we were able to implement 2 major institutional projects focused on support of gender equality. And also thanks to these projects, we were able also to design and implement first gender equality plan. And I'm happy to say that this summer we approved already third gender equality plan for upcoming 4 years. And that's also the reason that I believe that at CEITEC Masaryk University we were really able to bring positive change that is sustainable and that is systematic. But most important thing is that we used non-aggressive methods, non-radical methods that I believe are pretty important in academic environment, because, you know, you are from academic environment. Okay, so today I would like to share our experience, our approach, and I hope it might help also you here, not only from CEITEC BUT, but also from other institutions. Yeah, I used maybe a little bit controversial title, Be Selfish. Be selfish and take a full advantage of equal opportunities in science. And that's not only because I wanted something a little bit controversial to get attention and maybe to attract more people, but also I really believe that the reasons why we should strive for equal opportunities in science are really, there is a great variety of the reasons and of the motivation. And for some, it may work just to say, you know, we should strive for equal rights. These are like ethical reasons. For some, the other extreme might work, okay, we will force you to do so, for example, as grant providers. And this is actually the case. Horizon Europe will not fund your project if your institution doesn't have gender equality plan in place. But for me, I like to work with really the great variety of reasons, not only first extreme or the second extreme. And to be honest, I'm pretty curious about like today's presentation, your questions, your reactions, because maybe I have some stereotypes regarding technical universities and researchers from technical sciences. So it will be interesting to see whether my stereotypes are like real or not, and I hope I will lose them maybe. And on the other side, I will try to maybe break some of your stereotypes you might have, maybe even without knowing it. I will try to speak human language. Even though I studied gender studies, I studied sociology, but I will try to speak human language, mostly because my experience is when like normal people hear words like patriarchy, feminism, gender, they react like, oh, that sounds so radical, I'm not on board, sorry. But I believe that really this is a topic that should be interesting for all of us, men and women. And before I will continue, even though this is like hybrid event and a lot of people is like online, but if you can just stand up, I will activate you because, you know, lunchtime is coming. And I'm interested, is here anybody from non-EU country? Let's have a look at nationality. Nobody. Anybody from EU country? Not Czech Republic, of course. Okay, so it looks like, do we have, I guess, I will exclude it. I hope for more international audience, but I guess therefore you are all from Czech Republic, right? Okay, then you need to.
Someone online who is not.
Of course, I'm sorry for online people. I don't have like enough invention to involve you, but okay, so let's continue. I'm interested in your position. Do we have here any PhD students? Please sit down. No, they left. What a pity. Okay, do we have here anybody from the management or managerial position? Pavel, you can sit down. Sit down, please. Okay. Anybody from administration? You can sit down. And I guess this will be, and we talk together, so I know you are a researcher. So we have a researcher here, that's great news. That's interesting. I hope that online we have more researchers because all this topic and all this presentation was framed for researchers mostly. And it was a challenge for me to reframe my thinking about how should I present this topic for researchers to be useful, because mostly I present to members of management or gender equality experts and so.
Well, there is at least one that we have on chat.
Right, great. I'm happy for that. And let's move to the question of gender. So I can see mostly we are women here. We have Pavel from CEITEC Beauty here, and we have Mr. Photographer here. But I hope again that online we have more men. And I will move to, where should I point out to move?
The arrow.
Kati? Or is it on? Is it on?
Yeah. Okay, so
I can tell you. Okay, so a tricky question before I will move to this whiteboard. Do you know what I do have as gender equality expert in common with plumber? Plumber. Plumber. Jak se to řekne česky? Instalatér in Czech. Okay. Nobody knows. Okay, we will get to that. So if you can switch it like okay, before I will get back to the answer to this question, can you guess what's the share of women researchers in technical science?
14%.
Yes.
Is it 13%?
Is it 13%? Anybody from CEITEC Beauty here? Okay, so Katka maybe knows that. Pavel, Can you guess what's the share of women at the position of researcher at CEITEC BUT? All positions, research positions. Percent? 5% maybe, yeah. No, even more, 25%. Congratulations, because you are above the average of Czech Republic. So this is the average of the Czech Republic, technical sciences, female researchers. At CEITEC BUT, you have 25%, like from PhD students to group leaders. At the level of PhD students, any guess what's the share of women in percentage?
59 women.
In a percentage?
59.
59. So it's close, but it's 40%. So where should this will be like 40. So 40%. Then I was told you have senior researchers, junior researchers, senior researchers, and group leaders. At the position of junior researcher, any guess? At CEITEC BUT. Do you think we will go up or down with the share?
Down.
Misha, you can guess.
20%.
Right. Yeah, it's 20%. Senior researchers. So not group leaders, but more senior researchers. Bara, can you guess? No, it's 15. So it's 15. And do you have 16 group leaders at CEITEC BUT? Do you know any woman or any women in this group?
Yes, there's one.
Yes. So 1 out of 16, so it's 6%. So this is like so-called leaky pipeline. That's what I do have in common with plumber. Because we are trying to find reasons, structural reasons, why we are losing women when going from junior positions to senior positions. What are the reasons? What are the structural obstacles they face so that they leave science? Yeah. And actually, the leaky pipeline exists like all around the world when you have a look at universities, different scientific fields, no matter what. And here we use a lot of sociology and other research fields to help us to find this reason so that we can react on it and fix it. Kati, can you please? Yeah, so this is like just a slide showing the leaky pipeline when you can see share of women and of men. We can go to the next slide. So how we can define equal opportunities in science. Really, I want to try speak human language, not the radical one. So I will not use the official definition. For us, at CEITEC MU, when we are working with this concept, we are saying that equal opportunities means that everybody who has potential, who has talent, who has outcomes, results, and wants to do science, can do a science. As simple as that. It means that people are not leaving the science because there are some obstacles that they face just because they are a member of some group. Not only women, it can be, for example, people from abroad. Yeah, it's about like different groups with different needs, but currently the research environment is mostly like built for like pretty mobile, flexible person without carrying responsibilities, for example. I think it's also very important to say what we should not think of like equal opportunities. So when I say equal opportunities, what you should not think it is. It's not only women's issue. It's not only about support of women. It should be a matter for both men and women, because also men may face some structural obstacles in different issues. It should definitely not be perceived as a fight of poor women against like evil men that are doing this intentionally because they want to have all the power at the world. It's not like that. And definitely we should not simplify the issue of gender equality or equal opportunities in science, but also in other fields, just to, okay, the trouble is obvious. We need to have preschool facilities and everything will be solved, because this is the major thing that women have kids and they don't have time for career. So this is like really a very simplified view. And I liked what Bára said, that it's not about shaming and it's not about blaming some group of people like men. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, so, and I must say, I often hear both from men, but also from women, that there is no discrimination. We all have just the same conditions. There are the same rules for everybody, so I can't see any trouble here. But using this like common sense or just simple view on reality and on the rules we have, it doesn't work. We really need to go deep into and to study the system and to go under the surface to see really what are the structural obstacles, what are the biases and stereotypes we do have in society. We were talking a lot about this like during previous presentations. But also what's the distribution of caring responsibilities in our society. Just one statistics, we have less than 2% of men being on parental leave here in Czech Republic. I have an example from scientific environment. So we have a rule, for example, here. You can apply for the grant if you are maximum 4 years after your PhD, and of course you need to prove a good record of your publications. So does it seem, is it like fair? Can you see there any discrimination? Okay. I can see that some of you are nodding like yes. I am happy that that we have like more informed people and it's more and more common really to think, yeah, maybe this is not a neutral rule for everybody. Because as I mentioned, 2% of men at parental leave, but 98% of women. So imagine a situation when women might have maybe children in that time, and you have only 4 years. Yeah. So obviously, this is what we do. We are trying to analyze our rules, our procedures, and to have a look, isn't there any problem we can't see? Yeah. And then maybe adjust them a little bit to say, okay, you was 2 years at the maternity or parental leave. Okay, we will not count those 2 years, and you have another 2. Yeah. Yeah. So what are the structural obstacles except for like existence of maternity, parental leave, and so it's also sexism. It's also existence of bias, white men's club, glass ceiling. Yeah. And this is everything. This is something we need to react on. And maybe I will now just explain why I use more equal opportunities term than gender equality. It's not only the approach of CEITEC at Masaryk University, is I would say a global trend to use this wider term that includes not only gender, but also nationality, age, and other sociologists would use axis of discrimination, but I promise to use human language, so I will just say that these categories are involved. And we have really nice experience at CEITEC Masaryk University with combining these. We learned that when we have a look how we can help our international staff feel welcome and feel like 100% on board at CEITEC Masaryk University, it helps also with gender equality. Yeah, there are the same principles helping in this area. Support for diversity, support for gender equality, using principles such as transparency, and so on. Yeah. So this is something that we would definitely recommend. And when you have a look at a typical trouble of Czech science in breeding, like it's not just only about inbreeding that you will select your student to be then postdoc and then group leader in the same institution. Inbreeding and discrimination based on gender, for example, leads to the same situation. You are intentionally or unintentionally deciding that you will select your team members from smaller group of people that are very similar. And this definitely doesn't enhance creativity, diversity, and so on. We can go to the next slide. Yeah. So do you think this team would come up with really like innovative ideas when they share the same brain? We can go to the next slide, again about the diversity. So this is an image of Czech politicians that are discussing how childbirth system for the 21st century should look like in the Czech Republic. I said, let's avoid using only common sense. Let's have a look at what research says. But here I will use my common sense. So do you think that this group will really take into account needs of all involved groups in the area of childbirth system? Obviously, I miss, for example, a representation of maybe women, maybe people from hospitals and so. Yeah. So, but let's have a look what research says, because we are at the ground of research institute, and I want to have a data and to be sure that science backs up our approach. So we can go to the next slide. And I will talk about both selfish and non-selfish arguments. So research definitely shows that there is a positive correlation between diversity of a team and its innovative potential. The same works for so-called gender equality index of the country and its innovative potential. So it works at different levels: national level, team level, group leader, institution level. If you will be here as a representative of employer, it definitely improves your PR as a fair employer, which brings you more candidates, more students, for example, to the university. Research also shows that supporting equal opportunities brings higher satisfaction rate, and not only of women, but of all employees. So higher satisfaction rate, higher motivation, loyalty, we are again in a research institute, higher creativity and effectivity of the work. And thus also leads to decrease of early fluctuation and early leave of employees from the employer. I heard that next seminar will be focused also on open science. Well, equal opportunities or gender equality is also an important part of this trend called responsible research and innovation, which is connected to the open science. So again, if you want to be like modern and if you want to attract more grants, you definitely want to prove your organization is focusing also on those trends that are pretty supported by the European Commission. And European organization EIGE, focused on gender equality, also provided or did an analysis that proved that there is a clear relation between increase of GDP and support for more women in STEM fields. There are many reasons, but the biggest one is that if you are not using all the talents in the society, and you invested money into their education, and you will just miss a half of them. then definitely it will decrease your GDP. So this is like more macroeconomical view. And as I mentioned, also Horizon Europe and condition to have gender equality plan. That is the argument I use as the last one, because truly this motivation, I use it only for those people who will never ever support such thing as a gender equality or equal opportunities in science, because they have just a narrow view on a scientific environment. We can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so how? Here, and I will talk maybe more for people that are like designing gender equality plans, it's important to focus not only on direct support of employees, of researchers, but also to have a look at the cultural level and institutional framework. So work with what's the culture of the institute, what are the values of people, norms that they are following, what's the language we use. That's something that management really cannot say like, okay, we decided as a part of our gender equality plan from the next year, we will be open, friendly, and transparent institution. This is our internal culture. Yeah, this is something the management and us in the research, we need to prove it by being a role model, by like behaving according to what we want to implement. So if we want to be like, the culture is transparent, I will be transparent at the first place. The institutional framework. This is something that actually management has to put on paper. Yeah, what are the rules? What are the procedures? For example, how people are evaluated in the institution. Or what is the career system? Can I proceed from PhD to postdoc or not? Do I have to go for some mobility stay and so? And I was talking about individual level and the direct support of employees. Even though I know that here in the audience we have only one researcher, I focused in this presentation mostly like how a researcher can bring a change, not the member of management. And the nice thing here is that because it's such a complex topic, and we really cannot solve everything immediately, which is maybe a little bit depressing, but it gives us a choice to select a trouble or a topic that is the most pressing for us and start from there. Yeah. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. I hope it will be like a positive thing that I have decided to recommend only 5 points and not like 100 points that are so important, because that is like what I think. And this is really from the perspective of researcher, not the member of management or gender equality officer. And from my experience from the past 10 years, fight your unconscious bias is number one, and for me the most important, because it helps us to understand how it works, and it's an eye-opener for the next work, which will be then easier. So I will ask Katka, we will have a look to a 1-minute video from BBC. Do you have gender bias?
Father and son are driving a car. They get into a car accident. The dad dies. The son gets rushed into A&E.
Yeah.
The surgeon says, I cannot operate. This is my son. Who's the surgeon?
Oh my gosh!
Well, it could be his biological father because he's adopted.
The father of the boy.
A ghost? A priest?
The surgeon's the dad.
The farmer?
The father died, so
Yeah.
it can't be the father.
It's down to God to save him.
God?
The wife had an affair with the surgeon.
Either his stepfather or biological father.
His brother.
Surgeon's the mother.
Oh my God, yes! It makes so much sense.
Damn! Oh, that's annoying!
That's terrible, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah, obviously.
oh my gosh!
Ah, okay.
Oh, yeah, obviously, and we all automatically assume that the surgeon's a man.
Confession here. I am feminist, I studied gender studies, which is not a confession, it continues. And when I first saw this video, my reaction was, clear gay couple. It's obvious, two fathers. Yeah, so that's why I really believe that fighting our unconscious bias is so important. You will receive the presentation if you want. I will recommend you also Harvard implicit bias test, which works based on automatic quick associations we do have, to have a look if you have bias related to like men, women, career, home stuff, and so. So I definitely recommend it. It takes like 10 minutes. My second advice, and we don't have enough time to go more into deep with unconscious bias, but really when I was at the training, it was really eye-opener, even for me as a person that was like expert in that time. So my advice is ask your group leader, ask your institution to have such a training because it's really great. Second tip from my perspective, use open communication and discuss internal rules of your team, including work-life balance issues. Yeah, don't wait for like your institution to step up, but start in your team because your colleagues are your most close persons you work with. It's like what makes your experience at the institutional, like from the majority. So explain what are your needs based on your situation, and then try to find out what can be rules of your team. Be active bystander. You can have a look at web pages of Cambridge University about their initiative. Active bystander is a preventive approach to help you be more sure in situations that are inappropriate, like sexism, bullying, homophobic jokes, and so on. It's a tool for every one of us, as employees, as colleagues, as people, that will help us to react as an active bystander. Yeah, to help also, it's not just if you are the one who is like, now I forgot the word, but if the sexism goes against you, but also when you witness such a situation, how you should behave, and it can be either directly or with some kind of delay, even asking authorities to help you with. Again, this is like a separate topic. My recommendation, again, for the institutions is provide your employees with active bystander training because it will, again, help you from the long run. Be active member of your community is another one of the last tips. If you have an option to join focus groups, or if your institution has institutional surveys about your opinions, your experiences, take it as an opportunity because, again, the experience is when management hears there is a clear trouble with sexual harassment, more than 60% of people in academia faced some kind of sexism. It's a general problem. But when they can see from some kind of focus group or survey that it actually is happening also at the ground of your institution, then it's also their trouble, their problem they need to react on and come up with some reactions. So I know that the researchers are pretty like, their capacity is limited, they need to focus on research, definitely. But this time investment will be worth it. And the last, push your institution, your management to implement gender equality plan and other policies focused on improving working conditions and internal culture. It's our job to work on that, to implement it, but it's really great if we feel that we are supported by researchers because I hate when I feel that I am doing something for researchers. It's about researchers, but without researchers and their involvement. Yeah. So it's even some kind of symbolic, like raising your voice. It really helps that the management knows that there is a demand for this, and they are not doing just because of the Horizon Europe. Okay, so this is all from my side. At the last slide, you can have a look at the different information sources I decided at the Czech level to recommend National Contact Center Gender and Science. They are really great together with institutions, but also with researchers. They are doing consultations, trainings. They are raising like information level in this area. For those who are from Brno University of Technology, I added a link to their HR award, where you can find also results of gender audit that was done here at the level of university. And who wants to go deeply, you can inspire yourself also by our gender equality plan, which is like open to everybody who is interested. It's not an internal document because we really want to help also other institutes with their plans. So that's everything, and thank you for your attention. I don't know what's the time.
We still have some time for questions. Thank you very much. And as I said, if you have a question, we still have some time, some little time, so you can ask something, maybe some details of the strategical documents that were presented. Okay, there is a question. So go ahead.
Thank you for a very, very nice and, well, interesting presentation. And you already mentioned one example, for example, these 2 years that you add to after the PhD studies. But could you give any other example, like practical step you already implemented?
Yeah. So, for example, a big issue at CEITEC Masaryk University lately was adoption of new recruitment policy. And it was very challenging. It took 2 years of internal discussions to get to the final document. And we really tried to focus on transparency, on like stopping the inbreeding practices. And an example also was that we decided that all members of the selection committees need the unconscious bias training and need to understand really how to recruit the best talents in an unbiased way. So this is one thing. We provided a training with a focus on this. And second thing is that research shows that when you have a selection committee and there are like 4 people and all are men, there is like a statistically, I don't know the number like from the exact number, but there was a really huge difference with the chances for women to be appointed to the position. If you will put 1 woman to the selection board, nothing happens. If you have at least like 30% of members, which is in this case like you have to have 2 persons or 2 out of 5. So you have 3 men, 2 women at the selection committee, then the chances are not biased in a way to like prefer, for example, male candidates. So this is something that we are trying to implement. It's not an easy thing because, for example, we have only about 25% of women at the position of group leader. And if we want group leader in the committee and we want more women there, then we are like pushing them to do more like non-research work for the institute. Then if we can select from, I don't know, 25 men and 9 women, for example. Yeah. So it's not like easy, but we are trying to move like step by step. Yeah. So this is the example of recruitment, and my favorite example is also we were discussing about the representation of men and women, but also, for example, of international people in our advisory boards, different committees we do have at the Institute. And so far, we did the only one thing, simple thing. We started a regular reporting of gender disaggregated data about the composition of our management, directors board, scientific board, and different committees. So it was like how many members and how many men and women. And we are starting now also how many people from abroad. And just doing this, nothing else, a share of women in our scientific board was more than doubled. Just showing the numbers. Like, can you see it? Why? We don't have enough like great scientists, female scientists here in Czech Republic, and it's international board, so not only in Czech Republic, but worldwide. So another, very simple, not like, okay, so now there will be a quota because everybody is afraid of quota. So we said, okay, we will just have a look on that. We will not say that it has to be some percentage, but just having a look on data, and it's not only the case of, for example, the boards. We are trying to show all the reports when it's relevant, including gender disaggregated data. And what was interesting, when we had a focus group on this gender equality plan with our researchers, like from PhDs to group leaders, they also asked not only about this gender composition, but also about having their people from abroad, that they felt that they are not invited because then we need to speak English, not Czech, it's so boring, yeah. So again, it was nicely synergical, so we have decided that it will be not just gender disaggregated, but also...
So just one more small question. This data you have started to map it recently, or already you had it?
I think
or you are talking
it's
about
like 5 years we started.
Yeah.
So it's 5 years we started, and we are trying to extend the reports. So, for example, recently we added data from recruitment. We added also, for example, data from PR and communication to have a look at our press releases and the presence of representation of our female and male colleagues. So, and it's always very interesting. Also, for example, we added a table showing share of employees with contract for like forever, undefined period of time, and defined period of time. And it was also interesting to have a look, do we have a trouble or not? And the nice thing was that we didn't find any like discrepancy among men and women. And if we found it, it was more about that if you have, for example, only few men in administration and they are at managerial position, and you have like 92% of women in administration, then the data can be like influenced by that. Yeah.
So there's a chance of the very last question of today. And there is a competition of 2. So we can have 2 questions, but the first one will be by lady.
Yeah, it's rather common, I would say, because I think what is like coming to me, like when you were talking, I really like the approach and the way. What I believe, like I'm a parent of 2 children, and what I see is that like if you want somebody to listen, like you can use. You are basically like parenting the dialogue in a sense. And one parenting advice what I love and I like to apply to this setup, like talking about diversity, is don't shout, get closer. And that is like so true in so many situations, and you can apply it to children. Like when they don't listen, don't shout, get closer. When they don't understand, don't shout, get closer. Even when they don't want to listen, don't shout, get closer. So I just wanted to like put this comment on the table because I think it applies.
Yeah. So, and the last question, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Maybe
maybe comment to this graph, and I don't dispute it. We have as a society a problem with women in a leading position, particularly in science. That's all these biases are true, but maybe an alternative view. Why is this? We recently ran 4 rounds of junior research group leaders positions. Out of probably 100, I just checked it, about 120 applications, probably about 3 to 5 women applied.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, that's an issue on its own to start with. And I give you an example. Maybe use a similitude. What relates to childbirth and in men. Quite often they start a company from PhD. And myself, I started a company after a PhD. After 6 years, we didn't succeed. And it's not only the fact that you didn't publish for 5, 6 years, but quite often you realize that you don't want to give time to something which you find probably not as important. You know, you need to keep in science. I think you need to keep, particularly if you want to do top level science, and it's very different from IT position in company. You want to do top class science, you need to sacrifice quite a lot. You need to kind of keep going, and when you step out of it for 6 years, you probably look back and you realize, well, maybe it's not actually as interesting as it appeared to be when you were young, and when you kind of thought that publishing a paper is the most important thing in your life. And I think that it basically, I mean, a lot of people, and myself, I didn't want to go back to science, for instance. Even I couldn't, because I didn't have any publications for that 6 years. But maybe in women it's the same. I mean, after you have a child, you realize you don't want to sacrifice your life. There was a talk to one of the Nobel Prize winners, a physicist. He was in his 80s, and they asked him, "So you never had a family?" And he said, "I didn't have time for it." This kind of say what I want to basically express. You know, you really need to put a lot of time, and as a parent maybe, or as somebody who experienced something different, it's like stepping out of a relationship you've been into, and you thought, well, this is the most important thing in my relationship, I need to keep it at any cost, and you step out, and a month time later you look back and you think, oh, well, I'm happy that I'm out of it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's an issue as well, you know, that's not just the fact that the women have, you know, that they are obviously mothers, but also they probably realize that they don't want to basically give that much to it anymore. Do you think that's the case?
You are touching like more issues here, and definitely also this topic is closely related to the topic of like general culture in science, and if it's like healthy environment to work in. Maybe some of you noticed that the statistics, for example, regarding psychological diseases, depressions, anxiety in a research environment are like pretty above the average of the population. Yeah, so this is like related also to this broader topic of like what the research environment wants from people and how healthy maybe it is from long run. But when I have a look at what we can do as a research institute to attract more women, and obviously like we can see that we do have like enough, for example at CEITEC, MU, but we are a life science institute. We have like more than half of women at the position of PhD, then we have like 40% of postdocs, but then it goes down. So like maybe we should focus on this level, because the research shows that the biggest leak is after the postdoc, or between PhD and postdoc, which is obviously the situation when we like start to have families, to have children, and the statistics says that if you are like a woman in research not having kids, then statistically you are not so affected, and you will probably stay in research if you want. So there is a clear trouble with like this work-life balance issues, for example. So at CEITEC MU, we actually started this broad era of equal opportunities with improving our work-life balance policy. If you want, I'm not sure, there is no link, but I can definitely share. It's again a public document where we list all the measures we do have to support work-life balance. And it was very appreciated by not only like women, but also by men, especially if they are fathers of smaller children. So there is definitely demand also at this group. So work-life balance policy. Then we also focused on improving our job adverts. We did an analysis of the language we use. There are some tools that can help you to make the language more sensitive, more open. And again, this is supported by research, that when you slightly change a language you use to be more sensitive, then you will attract more women. Because I was told by one researcher that in their analysis, they realized that women, typically, it's not like all the women, but typically, women need to be 100% like, okay, they want this person with this background, I'm 100% fit, I will apply. Men will say, oh, I'm like 70% fit, okay, I will apply. Yeah, so you are missing a group of people that don't have like this, I will do it even though they want this. I don't have it, but I can learn it. So I will ask for the job. Yeah, so this is another thing to think about, how your job adverts are formulated, for example. But of course, it's hard. At CEITEC MU, during past 5 years, we were not able to attract any female group leader. And we hired like at least 4 group leaders through that time. So it's not an easy, but it's long-term process. I think that 10 years, so it's 10 years we are doing this. And I believe that we will see some success in this area of group leaders like in the next 5 to 10 years. That's what I didn't mention, that like fighting for equal opportunities, not only in research, it needs really very patient but also stubborn people, because otherwise you will get depressed soon. So step by step, but like firmly towards.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much, Eliška.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.